Disclaimer, if you enjoy tower defense games in any capacity, it's probably best you turn the video off right now and go on about your day. This video is strictly meant to voice my own opinion in the genre, which undoubtedly is very different than yours. At the end of the day, it's always okay to have different opinions on different genres of games. Well, that is of course unless it's a tower defense game, in which case, you're a dumb, stupid moron. I hate tower defense games. Over the course of this channel, I've covered a couple tower defense games. I know I covered one a long time ago that was a really crappy anime tower defense game, and I know that I covered another one called Tower Defense Simulator not too long ago, all things considered, and during both of those videos on those tower defense games, I tried my absolute best to remain as objective as possible, because at the end of the day, I see myself as a critic in some capacity, and because of that, I need to set my subjective opinions on games aside to look at things objectively most of the time. That said, ever since I did that Tower Defense Simulator video, I get people constantly requesting tower defense games. It is the biggest mistake that I ever made. And the most requested tower defense game that I get all the time is Tower Defense X. Or I'm sorry, Tower Defense X Beta, but we'll get into that. Either way, I got a whole lot of people coming to me and telling me, hey, Eclipse, Tower Defense X is the best tower defense ever. It's so much fun. It's so much better than Tower Defense Simulator. You really gotta play it. This thing's really something special. And as I'm sure you can probably guess by the fact that I'm on here talking about how much I hate tower defense games, that was not the case. I'm over it. And as of going forward, I will no longer be taking tower defense game requests. I am not playing any more tower defense games because, to put it simply, as I already said, I hate these games. I'm sorry, I can't put my subjectivity aside anymore. I just can't do it, not after playing this one. These games are so astronomically boring that I just, I can't even fathom why people play them. I don't get it. So rather than doing a big video on Tower Defense X, we're gonna do a hybrid video of a video on Tower Defense X as well as a video on why I can't stand tower defense games and I'm not playing them anymore. First of all, let's talk about the fact that in tower defense games, the game plays itself. I hesitate to even call tower defense games games because so much of it is just doing something and then sitting back and watching everything else happen for you while you don't do anything involved. And I already know there's gonna be some moron that goes to the comment section of the video and they're gonna be like, but Eclipse, you said that you like real-time strategy games and they're so similar to— No, they're not. They're not even the same stratosphere as each other. In an RTS game, you need to keep track of so many different things. Your economy, as well as where each of your units are being, the control groups that your units are under, keeping up your macro to make sure that all of your units are coming out on time and being able to support your armies, the micro when it comes to your abilities on your units, as well as any hero units if those exist in the game that you're playing. In a lot of these games, the large grand scale of things on whether or not it's a good idea to just try to retreat from the battle. There is a million things that makes RTS games infinitely better than a tower defense game. I could sit here all day and explain it, so don't even try that. In terms of Tower Defense X itself, I probably spent roughly 50%, if not more, of my gameplay not actually doing anything and just standing around waiting for my money to go up so that way I could buy certain upgrades. Ooh, flashy particle effects. Ooh, I can watch the enemies get killed. Oh, it's so fun. No, it isn't. I genuinely can't understand how people enjoy just place down tower, walk away. It's like, I know I say this a lot, and I know I always get shit for it. I don't give a shit. How is it any different than a game like Souls RNG? If I can just put something down, walk away for 5 minutes, come back and, oh, my upgrade's ready to buy because I've got enough money. Oh, thank God. And some people are gonna crawl out of the woodworks and they're gonna be like, well, Eclipse, at higher difficulties, you can't do that. You can't just walk away. You need to constantly micromanage X, Y, Z, and the other. And I would say to that, first of all, no, you don't in half of these games. And second of all, if it takes me 12 hours to get to the point where I have enough stuff in order to even play those game modes, then it doesn't matter. I played Tower Defense X for 4 hours. Count them, 4 hours. And listen, little known fact, but despite what Roblox players might tell you, 4 hours is a long time to be playing a video game and making basically no progress. Because at the end of the 4 hours, I had 5 towers unlocked. I hadn't even completely rounded out my roster of towers. And some of you might be saying that this is a Tower Defense X problem, and maybe you're not entirely wrong, especially considering the fact that in Tower Defense X, because some of the towers that are actually helpful are so expensive, if you want to get them, you have to forego buying other towers, because if you buy anything, it just sets back your progression to get any of the things further down the line. So you're just sort of stuck. It's a no-win scenario. You either nickel and dime yourself as you get up there to make sure that you actually have towers worth a damn, or you save up everything and remain nerfed using the same shitty stuff for hours and hours and hours. Take your pick. None of it is good. But either way, if I have to sit here for 4 hours and still not even get to the point where I have the good enough towers to take on any of these harder modes, I just like, And realistically, I say harder modes, but we need to put a huge emphasis and massive quotation marks behind harder, because difficulty in tower defense games is a myth. It's not real. When it comes to tower defense games on Roblox, almost all of these games are extremely pay to win. And you can unlock towers and upgrades and RNG for towers and whatnot that'll just make it so you automatically win anyway. So I'm not even going to bother trying to take it there. In terms of tower defense games that aren't on Roblox, well, let's talk about difficulty and skill in these games, with heavy quotations on both. I made mention in the past that in tower defense games, you can just Google the solution to the tower defense map and you win. And a lot of people got upset with me, probably slightly rightfully so, that just like in a puzzle game, if you Google the solution to a puzzle game, then that defeats the entire purpose of playing the game. And it's the same for a tower defense game. But then, hang on a minute, how can these same people argue about the quote-unquote difficulty of the game if I don't think that there's anyone on the planet that would argue that you can have high skill levels in puzzle games where you can just look up the solution? How many times have you heard someone talk about a puzzle game and talk about whether it was skill-based or not? No way, nobody's doing that. So how can you do it here? How can you possibly tell me that a tower defense game requires skill when you can Google the solution? Because in a game that does require skill, like I don't know, the Dark Souls. People love Dark Souls, right? If you look up the solution to a boss in Dark Souls, it's not really a solution. You still have to beat the boss. You still have to have mechanical skill to pull it off. You need to dodge at the right time. You need to react accordingly to whatever attacks they're gonna be. You need to make sure you don't overextend. And then we have tower defense games where you just chuck something down. Oh, as long as you chuck everything in the right spot, you win. Skill-based gameplay, my f***ing ass. And you know what? We haven't talked about Tower Defense X enough, right? So that's what this whole video is technically supposed to be about. So let's take a quick look at the difficulty in terms of this game and how it's completely broken because the game itself is not balanced towards how many people queue into your game in order to play with you. Accordingly, it appears to be balanced around having 3 people in your match. But if you log into one of these games and somebody doesn't load in or somebody quits halfway through, then you might as well quit too, because what the f*** the point? You're going to lose. Well, of course, unless you have all the pay-to-win nonsense, but if you're playing normally, you're gonna lose. I tried my hand at one of the harder game modes. One of the teammates didn't load in. My other teammate decided, ooh, it's farming time, leaving me to try to defend the entire wave by myself. And did I succeed? Of course not, because it's impossible. You would think that the game would be balanced around how many people you had when it started, maybe reduce or increase the enemies based on how many people you have, but no, they don't bother with that. And in terms of matchmaking, I gotta give them a little bit of credit here. the matchmaking in this game is probably better than in most of these other games that I've played. You matchmake based on difficulty, it throws you into 3 people, and then you vote for the map instead of putting you in this weird, awkward hub menu where you have to like walk onto teleporters and shit. I always found that crappy, and so I'm glad that there's something, and there's some people doing something different here. Now, there was an issue that the second that the matchmaker gets to 2 minutes long, it just immediately cancels itself. No idea what's going on with that, but you know, it is what it is. And I suppose I can also say that the idea of the barracks item is pretty interesting, having enemies that have to fight against your guys that follow on the opposite side of the track towards the enemy spawn. I don't think I've seen that before, so I mean, I guess that's kind of neat. It's not like it changes the gameplay loop at all or makes anything more interesting. It's still just as excruciatingly boring, but at least it's something different. But here's my chance, because I mentioned it earlier, and I'm gonna be mentioning it again. This wasn't just Tower Defense X. This was Tower Defense X Beta. Ho ho ho! It's a beta. That means it's immune to criticism. How the f is this a beta? Seriously, what is the difference between this current version and the version of the game that's going to be fully released? What's the difference? Oh, it has more battle passes that shove more microtransactions in your face? What beta? How is this a beta version? Somebody make it make sense. Is it the fact that the enemies don't have death animations, so they just vanish into thin air when they die? Is that why it's beta? Or alternatively, did the people behind this just chuck the beta tag on here to absolve themselves of some criticism? Yeah, it's that one. It's absolutely that one. And I mean, realistically, I think that's it. The longer I played Tower Defense X, the more and more I wanted to fall asleep, and the more and more I considered doing this video, because I've considered doing it for a long time, but I've been resisting the urge because I didn't want to piss people off. But at this point, I don't give a shit. If you like tower defense games and you didn't take the disclaimer at the beginning of the video seriously, and you watched all the way up until this point, you're gonna leave your hate comment. I don't care. I hate these games, they suck, and I'm not gonna be playing them anymore. The end of story.